Hey y'all, how's it going? I decided to go live and then get tongue twisted. Story of my life. All right, well, I'm glad to be here with y'all today. It's been a minute since I've made a live video, but I'm excited to do it. I will warn you, though, that my tin roof here on my porch has been bombarded by acorns, and so if at any point I jump or scream or yelp in any way, it's just me becoming terrified of the acorns that are constantly attacking me. So I'm so excited to be here with y'all today. I wanted to talk about a couple of different things that are going on in my world. I'm sitting here in my pajamas. If you've noticed my lack of vest, I'm actually wearing my vest under my pajamas so that I feel comfortable. But yeah, so I've got a bazillion things happening in my life right now. One of the big ones being that the reason I'm just lounging in my pajamas is that I sent my manuscript off for my new book. So I'm just being lazy today and just basking in the enjoyment of that. So we will see how that goes. We'll see if people like it, love it. I'll just be over here not caring and being glad that I get to write. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is I've been thinking a lot about a post that I put up yesterday. And for those of you who didn't read it, basically in August I did an event called Power of the Possible. And we'll get a little bit more into that later. But something technically went wrong during the event, and I wasn't aware of it. It was just a little snafu. I didn't read the terms of service, and the program had changed, and not as many people were allowed into the event as I thought were going to be, and it just turned into this, huge amount of chaos, and I shared the story with y'all yesterday. And, I've been thinking a lot about some of the responses that I got from that. And for me, I think what was so interesting is so many people were responding with, I really appreciate you owning the fact that there was a mistake, and that's really nice. But I think that what I really took away from that conversation is that for me, it wasn't just about owning a mistake, which is true. I did make a mistake, and it caused some trouble for a couple of people, and we're making it right by redoing this event. But at the same time, it's also about acknowledging, something that's been sort of this congruent conversation over the last couple of weeks of what it means to have a disability, right? And for me, I'm not afraid of saying that I'm disabled. I am disabled. That is a part of my reality, and my disability may look different than some people's disabilities, but it's a disability nonetheless. And just because you can't necessarily see it doesn't mean that there aren't very real daily struggles that I have as a result of the many disabilities that I live with. And so, I think part of why I like to talk about my failure points, and again, I'm also not afraid to say that they're failures. I have failed many times in my life. I've also succeeded many times. And I think it's important to talk about the times that we have our failure points, because when we reach a failure point, we can do one of two things. We can say, well, I failed, and walk away, or we can look at it and go, did I fail because of something I did, or did I fail because there wasn't a point of accessibility for me? And I think that's a really important conversation to have, because if somebody gets up, to a set of stairs and there's not a ramp and they're in a wheelchair, they failed to get up the stairs. But that failure isn't their own. That failure is that society did not create a system of accessibility for them. And so I think that's a really important conversation that we need to expand on when we talk about neurodivergence, when we talk about disability, when we talk about ability. What are we doing as a culture to isolate failure points that we have within our society and ways to make it better. So, for me, one of the ways that I've done that is I've created these sort of 5 core principles for myself that I try to utilize that help me navigate some of these difficult spaces. And that is what Power of the Possible has been about for me, and why I developed this course was because of the fact that, I have been teaching these principles in my writing courses, and I had a couple of people reach out to me and they were like, I have zero desire to write a book. I have zero desire to, start a blog, do any sort of writing, but I really feel like I could learn, I could benefit from some of the things that you're talking about. And so that's why I created this course. I'm going to drop the link in here because what happened is, so in August when we did the event and everything kind of, it went great on our end for those people who were able to access the class, right? They had a wonderful time. The problem was that about 50 people weren't able to get into the class because they changed the number of the classrooms. And so I really struggled with it. I kind of went into, and for those of you who live with ADHD, this will probably resonate with those of you who live with ADHD a lot, is whenever I end up messing up, something doesn't go right, I shut down, like heavily shut down. And all of a sudden it's like, if I know I have an angry email, it's like, well, I could respond to the angry email and face this head on, or I could just never open my email ever again. Right? And obviously that's not helpful, but like if you see those memes that go around there, like I finally accomplished a 15-minute task. That's really what it's all about, is that sometimes when we hit these moments and it's like, oh my God, I just can't confront it anymore. I can't deal with it anymore. And it shuts us down. And then it starts that procrastination cycle, right? Because we tell ourselves, I can't deal with this right now. I'll deal with that in an hour. Hour becomes a day. Day becomes a week. Week becomes a month. And the thing is, it's not that we've forgotten about the thing. We know that the thing is out there. We know. We're fully aware. It's eating away at us from the inside. It's this ingrained shame that we have felt since school, right? That has been just beaten into us that, you didn't complete the assignment and now you suck, right? And we deal with that shame into adulthood, and it can affect our lives, our livelihood, our workspaces, and then it creates these moments of just that spiral. And for me, those spirals used to last a very, very long time, which is why I began to kind of develop these systems for myself to catch myself as I was falling, like, kind of a personal safety net, if you will. And so, for me, that is the importance of kind of talking about the moments where I fail, because I think it would be really, really easy for me, right, to get on here on social media where I can curate my identity and get on here and be like, here's my success, here's my success, here's my success, I am successful. And that's all you would ever see. That's all I would ever show you. And people wouldn't see, the moments of me melting down when I get a really harsh criticism, valid harsh criticism from my editor, right? And then I just want to curl up and not come out and be like, oh no, what am I going to do? And if I didn't talk about those moments, I wouldn't be an appropriate ambassador for neurodivergency, right? Because to me, if I didn't do that, it would be a lie. It would be a lie to say that it is easy for me to navigate through life. It is not easy for me to navigate through life. The difficulties that I face because of the way that my brain is functioned and because of the way that society is formed, it is very, very difficult for me to navigate through this world. And that is just the truth. And it's the truth for so many other people. And so that's why I think it's so important. It's not just about owning the mistake, but it's about acknowledging that those mistakes, many of them happen because of my limitations. And we have to learn how to create accommodating space for people who run into those types of problems. So, it's not enough to just talk about the success that I've experienced as a neurodivergent person or as a dyslexic author. If I were to do those things, that would be doing a disservice. I have to talk about the fact that, like, when I do public events, I can't meet people beforehand because it would drain me of all of my energy and I wouldn't be able to do the thing that I'm there to do. I love meeting people after the fact because then it just drains me out. I fall asleep afterwards. But, talking about those things I think are super important because it's not just about putting, when you're going to an event and being like, oh, I will only eat red M&Ms. No, it's not about that. It's about learning what I am and am not capable of as a person who lives in this body with this brain and experiences life in the way that I do. And so, anyways, that is what this event is about. I'm redoing the event on Sunday so that we can record it, so that those who missed it will have the opportunity. I'm really excited about doing this. So if you would like to join us, I'm dropping the link in there again, so y'all can check it out. There is a option that it's all just pay what you can. So there's a set price for those who can afford that. For those who can't, it's just a pay what you can to be there. So since I'm here, since I'm doing a live, and I see a bunch of people talking, I'm gonna do 10 minutes of Q&A real quick. So I'm not gonna go back and read everything that's up there because that'll be too confusing for my brain at the moment. But I'm going to read some of these comments. Will this live be posted after? Yes, I always like to preserve my lives. So yes, Gabby, this will be available to view afterwards as well. Lowry says, seems like my whole life, the whole truth of my life has been learning to own my failures. So, I think that's so important. It's profoundly important that, I think we get so afraid of the words, right? We get afraid of the word failure. We get afraid of the word, disability. I am disabled. And that's just true. Crystal asks, where will the link to the class be posted? So I've posted it in the about of this video, so you can go back, you can look at that. And then also, I've dropped a link in the comments a couple of times as well. Jessica says, it's nice to hear your voice to go with your writing. You know what's funny is I have my Southern accent beaten out of me. I took a number of acting classes when I was younger, and I thought that's what I was going to do with my life at one point. And slowly over time, I have allowed myself to stop masking my voice. I don't feel like I'm there 100%, but I've learned to not be afraid or ashamed of my Southern accent. And so, like I said, it's really funny because, I think I'm in an odd space where, I still feel like I have to mask my Southern accent when I'm, public speaking. It just sort of naturally happens that way. But then, I'll get around other Southerners, and it's just all of a sudden I just sound like the hillbilly I really am. So, unmasking of this mask, not this mask, it's a difficult, long process for sure. Tyler asks, will you be continuing the weekly Wednesday and Sunday posts you used to do? I am trying, Tyler, to jump back into doing that. I had taken a bit of a hiatus, and I've had a hard time recouping that. And I'll be real honest with y'all, I've been so overwhelmed with some of the other stuff going in my life, work-wise, that it just hasn't been feasible. But it is something I want to pick back up, and figure out how to make that work. Lisa says, a big obstacle for me is all or nothing thinking. I've learned to see things in varying degrees of success or failure. Listen, I get that. I'm one of the biggest things that causes me to melt down is a change of schedule. Like if I was planning on doing something and it doesn't go the way that I thought it was going to go, if someone has to move a meeting or something like that, oh man, it messes me up, and it takes me a solid amount of time to rebound from that. And so that's kind of what I'm talking about here is, finding ways to have those conversations of the very real struggles that come along with this. All right, let's see. Deidre says, we are living with 3 neurodivergent family members. When is the event? So the event is going to be this Sunday from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. So we'd love to have y'all. All right. Corey asks, are you going to be making any more of your books available to listen to? I absolutely adored listening to you read your book. So, whether or not I am going to narrate all of my future books is up in the air right now. That really, really took a lot out of me to do that. So we'll see moving forward. But I am in the process of publishing a new book. That one will have an audiobook with it. And then after that is completed, we are going to be going back and adding audiobook versions of all of my previous work. So eventually all future books will be released in conjunction with the audiobook at the same time. And we are also going to be working toward getting all of my previous work into the audio sphere. So yes, that is something that we are definitely working on. Richard says, I'm from the Caribbean, and my accent changes unconsciously depending on whom I'm talking to. It really is a struggle, especially like if you've lived in any sort of environment where people try to get you to lose your accent, right? If that happens, I think we switch out depending on our audience, and it is definitely a struggle. Kelly says, hello from Kentucky. Hi, can you hear me? I'm not that far away. So let's see here. Courtney says, unmasking is huge. My partner has been doing the work to unmask for 1.5 years. I'm proud of them and the growth this has allowed. Having safe spaces and safe people to unmask with is key. I just joined and see that you are planning an event, and I'm excited. Well, Courtney, I'll tell you, part of the biggest thing for me, and I don't know if this will be any help for your partner, but I'll tell you the biggest thing for me has been allowing myself to stumble when I read publicly. I used to memorize my passages before I would read them publicly so that I wouldn't stumble, so that I wouldn't get lost on the page. And now I'm like, y'all are just going to have to deal with it. That is who I am. And if you think that that's unprofessional, then you need to deal with what you think professional is. Because being professional isn't lying. And so, what I do think is super important is to remember that we were taught to mask. That is a trauma that was stapled onto us, okay? And taking that off can be painful. It can be scary. It can come with a lot of complex emotions. And so I can't stress enough the importance of, if you are going to go through that journey, of doing that with, a therapist or a trusted person in your life, because you would be shocked some of the gook that has built up underneath that mask, that has to be properly cleaned away. I don't know if you've ever removed a bandage, or stitches on your own. I don't recommend it. And the same thing with the mask. It is a difficult thing. And for those of you who are just joining us, we are talking about masking as something that people do to hide their genuine self, to be more presentable to society. Not wearing masks, in enclosed spaces and things like that to keep other people safe. So just wanted to clarify that for a second. So let me see here. Jean asks, did I hear you say that you're recording your Power of the Possible for people that missed part of the last one? Yes, I am. Because one of the things that really upset me was that we took a break in the middle, and a couple of people logged out, and then logged back into the system, and then they couldn't see the second half. So yeah, that is what we are working on right now. Let's see here. Deidre says, what book did you narrate? So I narrated All Saints Hotel and Cocktail Lounge. And so we're going to be going back and getting the rest of the books all up to speed. What is the hardest thing that you've ever done, and how did you find ways to accomplish it? I know, I've done a lot of hard things in my life. I think maybe the most difficult thing that I ever did was open the shelter. I opened a shelter for families that were experiencing homelessness. I'd been hired to do this, and I was originally hired by the company to help them do an evaluation of their philanthropic work in the community, and also to do a community audit to find out what deficiencies there were in the community. And I came back to them with my report a couple of months later, and basically what I came up with was that there wasn't enough shelter for families. So I helped open, so they asked me, they were like, will you be willing to open the shelter for us? And I initially refused because it felt like way too close to the bone, having gone through homelessness as a child myself, and the concept of working with families. It really terrified me. I felt like I was going to be opening up a whole lot of wounds in my own life. which ultimately turned out to be true, but in a very beautiful way. And so that was probably one of the most difficult but yet rewarding experiences that I ever did. And, you know, how I was able to accomplish it is I just began journaling out what that feeling was like, and that journaling out ended up turning into my first book. So, you know, it became circular from that point. So, all right, y'all. Well, I wish that it were possible that I could get to every single question on here. I'm going to end with this last one. And then I hope that for those of you who can, that you will join me this Sunday for Power of the Possible. The link is up there at the top of the video. Crystal asks, do you have any daily practices or routine that you keep frequently to help keep you from hitting the wall? Meditation, food, routines, exercise, etc. Yes, I do. I keep a little moleskin journal next to my bed. And when people write into me, when I read those messages, if they ask for, you know, something they're afraid of or something that they're struggling with or a family member who's hurting, I always write their name down in my little journal. And every single day I pray the rosary. And then I make a practice of remembering every single person's name as I'm doing that. So that's probably my biggest routine, my most important routine in my daily life. And then the other is I just try and be very mindful of the food that I eat. I struggle a lot with food, having grown up with periods of food insecurity. And so I try and be very mindful of my eating. That doesn't mean that I don't also allot myself time to enjoy foods. I don't do any sort of Sundays. I allow myself, I can eat anything I want at whatever capacity I want. But then throughout the week, I just do very mindful eating. I make sure that I try and be balanced in the foods that I'm consuming. And so those are my two daily practices outside of just, you know, my daily writing as well. So, well, thank you all so much for spending this time with me. Like I said, I do hope you will join me for Power of the Possible this weekend. And I hope to do some more live videos like this with y'all again real soon. So, all right, y'all have a good rest of the day.